Are you curious about the technologies shaping the next digital revolution and how today's leaders are navigating that change? I'm Raghu Kiran. Welcome to another thought provoking episode where we explore leadership, innovation, and culture through the lens of bold entrepreneurs and executives. Today's guest is someone who is just not following the future, is helping to build it. I'm joined by Mr. Vikram R Singh, the founder and CEO of Antier Solutions, a blockchain consulting firm with over 700 professionals across 5 continents and more than 1,000 blockchain implementations. Antier helps shape the future of DeFi, metaverse ecosystems, and enterprise blockchain applications. Mr. Vikram, it's great to have you with us.
Thanks for having me here.
It's an absolute pleasure and honor, Vikram, to have you on us. There's a lot of things that I wanted to cover, and especially I love your bold vision statement in terms of you being the Web3 market leader. Before I get into depth of the technology, I would love to start with your purpose. What's your why and what motivated you to step in the world of blockchain and start Antier, and how has that purpose shaped you so far?
Okay, so I would say I very strongly believe that you are the product of the circumstances you are raised into, and especially for the first 20 years of your upbringing, right? So, entrepreneurship didn't happen to me like by choice, I would say. It was more of a accidental, more of a circumstantial, right? So, I will keep going back and back because everything has to connect up together. So it was in 2004 when I was, suffering from spondylitis, and I was bedridden for 2 months. Like I could not work anywhere. Like if I would be, like go out, so my back would start aching. So at home, so I decided that I have to do something which doesn't bind me to any time limits. So I took my home PC and take took a rented place, which is a kind of a servant room above the garage in a one canal house, and so that was where I started, working, and so initial years were quite lean, like 4 or 5 years were quite lean, and but it was in 2009 when I started again with 5 people team, 1 month backup, and that was that day. I would say like after that there was no going back, and so today we are over 700 team member under one roof. So that makes us India's largest blockchain consulting. Blockchain we came into 2017. It was the year when we uh, started when we got into our new infrastructure. We bought our first building, and I was looking around, and crypto was making a lot of noise. So the question I had in mind, like, how should I grow from here? Like, what should be my USP from here? So when I dwell deeper and I study like why crypto was invented, like all sort of reason, like the financial inclusion, economic recessions. So then what I did, so I kind of like was completely sold out on the sacred vision it had behind it, and so that was the day I started, steering the entire organization towards blockchain. But I will go back to your original question, like the purpose. So I never went to a college, so again, not circumstantial, more of circumstantial, not kind of. Okay, I was a college dropout. Uh, it was in I was like 12 years old when I lost my father. So then it was a natural pull, like when I thought, okay, there has to be, I have to take my own ownership, right? And so I thought, okay, let me, find some, initiatives where I can, or maybe skills which I can learn, and then I will start kind of, getting into the market, and get myself employed in maybe in an organization which can, sustain my expenses. So after doing plus two from a government school, nearby government school, and and uh, and by the way, I had my plus two in medical science, right? So coming from a Punjabi medium up to 10th standard, then I shifted to English medium. So my English has always been little, I would say, good, and not up to that mark of a convent educated person. So I started learning, graphic design. Before that, I learned, a typing skill, which was costing only 40 rupees a month, So that was something which I couldn't afford. And but the unique thing was like, as the circumstances would put into you that I started trading of that one skill to acquire the next skill. So I went to one of my friend who started a graphic design business, and I offered him the kind of option of like using me to do any kind of typing stuff for me, for you, and in return you can I can simply sit there and watch you how you execute and do the graphic design, and in return I will learn this trade, and so he agreed to it, and so I did this for 3 months, and I would go there around 10 a.m. and sit there up to 4 p.m. Coming back up to 8 p.m. I will go. I'll find another part-time job for night, and would work there typing stuff like around 3 up to 3 a.m. Come back to home, take a sleep, and again 10 a.m. go back to the same office. So this worked for 3 months, and after 3 months he started paying me 800 rupees, and that's how kind of my journey started. So and simultaneously I started doing the graduation from correspondence, like as a correspondence student from Punjab University, and by the time uh, the dot-com boom happened, and this was like a Y2K, like so web designing, Java were quite very much in demand. So I found a friend, and both of us decided to go for a PG diploma in computer application, again correspondence from Kurukshetra University, and we did that. And by due to that, I also learned C++, which was a like a programming language, and which also cleared my fundamentals in the programming space. And at that time I was working with a company, and like again, so the person who taught me like web designing, a short course, like part-time course, so he got into a like a web designing company, and I offered him again the same trade-off that I can help him with the typing and designing stuff, but if he can in return teach me or get me hired in that new company web designing, so I will move into web designing. So that worked off, and but what happened eventually, like they shut down their web designing business and started a magazine. So I had the knack of for taking the ownership, so I took over working in the designing department, and then so a couple of people, like the girls who were from the Snaver school, they were working as sub editor, and when they saw me like executing all the tasks which were meant to be at for an editor's job, so they asked me like, why don't you do journalism? So it is just across the road, like Bharti Vidya Bhavan. So and I just did that. Like, so I'm a blend of three things: design, content, and technology. That's what I understand. Now I'm going to come back. If you look at this journey, right, that uh, I would say like everything happened. I kept on taking all the things, as they came into my way, and I always believe that like nobody decide for themselves in which family you are going to born in, right? Neither we decide like which family, which caste, which creed, which religion. Even our beliefs are not ours. So over this journey shaped a purpose within me, that my sole purpose on the individual level is to help people move from point A to point B, right? Because when I have gone through my own grinding meal, and I understand the how important it is for anyone uh, who gets a mentoring or right mentor at the right point of time at their age, it can do wonders, right? So what drives me, what brings me out, like from the comfort of the home, and then takes me as the last person in the office, takes me back into the home as the last person in the office to help people. So I always believe that give a man a fish you feed him for a day, teach a man to fish you feed him for the entire life. So that's my personal purpose, and I was also kind of writing a manifesto for myself as well, just a few days back, and as I said, like we as a people, like not decide for like what kind of beliefs most of the time we are going to develop, because it is all given. हम कहते हैं ना कि there are three type of stories, like the stories you are born in, kind of family, the stories you are told, what your family members tell you, and the stories you create for yourself and you for organization, you professionally, personally, right? तो ये ना कहीं पे there is a huge a void is left, where even our beliefs are not ours, right? They are given, right? So what I feel like, there is a huge void, which is which makes us born broke. So which mean like we are not born broken. Our mental models are the one which are inherited, not chosen. And some of us, do learn to break through, and but many of us stay trapped in belief that were never ours, right? So what I believe that needs to change, right? That needs to change. And that's my purpose in life, because whatever I have achieved so far, more than that, the outer growth, I feel the weight of this this internal fragmentation, around me, the people who are on their path, but not aware what is guiding them, what is making them move forward, right? There are so many blind spots they are carrying with them. So everyone has that, not only those people, but even we as well, me as well. So I've seen people crumble under these burdens and self-doubt. So and even the gifted children's inherit their invisible fears and ill from the generation. So we are in a vicious circle, because uh, we don't get the required skills from the home, because uh, our parents will not have got that from their own parents, because every parent do their best to give the best to their children. And but we are in a kind of a vicious circle, right? So unconsciously, I always believe that the as far as the beliefs are concerned, right? Uh, Most of them are given to us unconsciously. No parent would teach their child how to act angrily, or how to abuse someone. When we see them doing those kind of stuff, only then we do this, right? So these are the very thoughts, right? Which what I want to bring a change, in the society, that if we kind of I believe that we can fix it, not with the medication, but with the clarity, with mental rewiring, with the conscious reconditioning. So मैं इसी जर्नी पे हूँ कि आई वांट टू चेंज कि ये जैसे ह्यूमन का थॉट प्रोसेस है, हाउ आई कैन ब्रिंग मोर क्लैरिटी इनटू देम, and provide them the right the narratives, the right literature, which they understand who uh, they are as a person, right? What shapes their thought process, what shapes their beliefs. And when they're able to see the rudimentary belief system which has developed in them, consciously or unconsciously through the process of upbringing, I would say, I believe that they will be able to change those belief systems. And that's the purpose of freedom nowadays as well. We don't need freedom, to maybe enjoy, our food, which we like most, or maybe travel, which wherever we want to go. But we need to free ourselves, from the rudimentary beliefs which we have acquired. So this is what I hope I answer your question and not dragging it too much. But
Well, absolutely. And you made a very interesting point. Stories that you create for yourself. Mr. Vikram, I can easily say that you have created a story for yourself. Coming from an humble background, what inspired me, in fact, while you're saying that, I was reflecting a person who doesn't come from a typical English medium, right? Your upbringing was in Punjabi medium, and you don't come from a strong academic background, and yet you're going through some personal challenges. Nothing has stopped you. You went on from strength to strength, and going back to that belief systems that you spoke about, right? You broke all those mental barriers, and you showed that with tenacity and with curiosity and continuous learning, you managed to set an empire where now you're creating an employment for 700 plus people. And most importantly, You choose a field which is aspirational, which is evolving, and it's an ocean. It's an ocean. In fact, I was just looking at the Web3 market is projected to hit around $33 billion by 2030. So you've got a lot of ocean to capture. But going back, Mr. Vikram, your story is nothing but inspirational. And what I liked about here is your whole purpose is all about giving that clarity to people. And in fact, Vikram, I wanted to touch upon that culture, right? I've been speaking to many leaders and I've been coaching many leaders. One of the common challenges many organizations are facing challenges uh, when it comes to people leaving the job. There's a lot of attritions. People are leaving the job because they don't see a clear of clarity in their purpose, right? How is their job contributing to the bigger purpose, right? There is no lack of clarity or purpose or meaning in what they do. And the other challenge, what I see is around alignment issues, where everybody has that me kind of a mindset. As you grow the business, it's a me kind of a mindset. But going back to your purpose, where you wanted to unlock people's potential and give that clarity, and you wanted to clear that alignment, I wanted to see how you went upon creating and building a culture that gave that meaning and also created that alignment to the results you want to deliver.
So I believe everything revolves around the trust and inspire, kind of culture. So if your people trust you as a person, believe in the vision, not only the vision, but also, uh, you know, impose trust that if they will be around you, their growth will keep happening, as long as they are also delivering or contributing, right? Because you have to make sure that, uh, because an entrepreneur or a founder is the first employee. I would say, no, we don't have 700 employees. I am employed to this first sector. I'm first employed to those 700 people. Then they are, rather I never use the word employee. I always address them as a team member because I would say it's an act of God, whatever I'm doing, whatever, wherever I am right now. So like nothing happens without, we are not alone, like one man's kind of an army. It's always a team effort. So when you have a right team behind you only, then you are able to, scale, right? So, and if you ask, like anybody, like how do we define culture, right? So there will be multiple definition, but the one which I believe like goes very well is the set of behaviors exhibited by your leadership and managers. वो कहते हैं ना कि like if you have to change the culture of an organization, just change its leaders and culture will be changed.
Always stop
Because
down.
everything top, everything flows from top. So the way you want to behave, as abhi मैंने just I mentioned, like when we see our parents do something, which is not acceptable norm, but then we learn to do that and apply that in our life as well. And the same way, like when we see our seniors to use maybe some not acceptable norms, and in his execution, in her execution, then we try to tend to replicate that. So an organization should always be run, I believe, like as far as the service industry, because one thing I love about the service industry, right, that and you can mark my words, like the people who might have had grown in a service industry and the people who would have grown in a product industry,
Mhm.
like similar kind of like wealth creation or maybe success, you will see the more the humility, and don't take me like negatively, like the humility and authenticity factors will be very high in the service industry people, because the reason मैं बताता हूँ कि उसमें क्या है, like you have to have master all the areas, right? Yourself first. May it be HR, may it be delivery, may it be sales marketing, may it be anything, right? So in products company, I feel if you just master how the acquire the customer, you are done. But in service industry, it's not only how to acquire the customer, but how to keep them happy and how to get the things from your team member, which is one of the biggest challenge, right? How to get, because and यहाँ पे I would like to quote one thing. Uh, I would say that will go very well here. there are four, we say like, when I started learning, because up to I never understood the meaning of entrepreneurship up to 2013. I started in 2004, like in 2013 was the year when I started knowing like what is entrepreneurship is, or maybe started learning about it. And that was the trigger point was because I joined TIE, the industry on entrepreneurship.
Okay.
So that was where my journey or maybe learning started. And whatever we have achieved, I would say like that's the kind of like result of those 12 years of learning, self learning, right? Because from there I got the direction where I started walking upon, right? So coming back, when I was when my kids were growing at home, I started learning like how to raise, good kids. But what I realized, what I've learned in that process, it worked well within the office first, then the homes second. And one thing what I learned, coming back to the original point where I, yeah, kind of distracted. So it says like, as your kids are growing in your home, your communication style should change as they grow up. So when your child is like up to 9 years old or 10 years old, 8 to 10 years old, they need guidance, right? So they sorry, they need directions, right? So you simply tell them, okay, do this, do this. That's a direction. When they grow a bit older, they need guidance. How to do this, right? When they grow a bit more elder, like teenager, 13, 14, then they would need motivation. We कहते हैं ना कि like you're getting very stubborn. We won't, listen to me. It's not like they are stubborn. They need motivation. They need to understand why they should do particular thing,
Oh.
right? And when they are actually, like adult, like 18 plus, 19 plus, 20 plus, then they need only one thing which can make them move, which is called inspiration, right? When they inspired from within, intrinsically, only then they will move, right? Otherwise, no. So the same thing now is true in office as well. Like there will be like again, different type of people who will be starting off their career. They would need direction. They would need guidance. They are who are bit, senior or maybe have spent, 5 years or maybe so. They would need motivation. Who might have spent maybe 10 years plus, in the industry. They would need only the only inspiration. Only then they will be stick with you. And inspiration is, agar मैं इसको उल्टा कर दूं, like if I flip it, it is just leadership. Leadership is nothing but inspiration, right? When your people want to work for you, right? वो कहते हैं ना, एक just another thought, like always your people should work, you should work with your people, not like, they should work with you, not for you, basically, right? I mean, this is kind of like execution style. You should work with your people, not and but coming back to the thing, ki, uh, the leadership is inspiration, right? When your people want to work selflessly or maybe um, intrinsically motivated, right? And would like to mimic your behaviors or maybe how you kind of like execute, that is where like we say like you have achieved a position for leadership, because leadership is not a designation. You can't, tell your people that like so mostly someday if people come to you and say, okay, these are the people who are not respecting me, so you cannot command respect for others. You have to command respect. Cannot be commanded. It comes from within only, right? So this is my uh, take on this on the culture side. Like, if your culture is based on trust and inspiration, trust and inspire, authenticity, humility, we call it four values. By the way, I can again add one more thing. How you achieve that, like, or maybe how we try to maintain that. So these are four R's. So we call it four R's. The first R stand for, respect. So like, if me and you are kind of working together or maybe any relationship, both are responsible for the respect of that, for each other, right? Then the second R is the responsibility. The quality of that relationship is the responsibility of the both, right? The third R stand for the right. You have a right on me and I have a right on you, depending on the kind of relationship we are. For example, if there is a customer, then he has the right to ask for the right quality. And if I'm a service provider, I have the right to ask for the money I've deserved.
Yeah.
Right. And last R is the rationalize. For example, do I have the courage to question my own thought process, own belief system? Whatever thought I'm bringing on the table, whatever opinion or the belief or maybe statement I'm bringing on the table, or maybe while discussing with the others, do I have courage to accept my mistakes? Do I have the courage to, correct my own things before I stay, adamant to maybe one thing? So, and I feel like this has worked well for us. And again, like you can't be वो कहते हैं ना always strive for excellence. Perfection can never be achieved. So it's a journey, right? Um, you can't change people actually until unless they are intrinsically motivated or they want to change, right? So you can always, work towards them, show them, what is in it for them, right? And how it can be achieved. What are the fundamental values, principle which needs to be, uh, kind of endorsed, while executing. And so that's how you maintain a culture of and positive environment within your organization.
This is brilliant, Vikram. And I really love those two words that you kind of mentioned is around trust and inspire. It's all about leadership, right? And one of the point that really resonated with me around was a set of behaviors that you, as a leader, you put forward, right? It always comes down to if you go below the line, if you as a leader go below the line, taking blames and excuses and denial, and that becomes your culture where every of your employees start demonstrating those behaviors. And instead, where they operate above the line, taking that responsibility and accountability and ownership, and that's where you start getting that results. And what you talked about was is pretty and really loved about that 4 hours, right? You made it so simple and yet powerful and impactful in terms of respect, in terms of responsibility. But really love the right. Not many people don't get that. Yes, it's a two-way, right? It's a right. Yes, customer has the right to ask the right quality of the service, whilst we have the right to ask the value, the money that we deserve, right? And it is very powerful and yet be logical enough having that rational in you and talking about the belief systems. This are gold mine, and I would love to touch more in detail about it. But let's go back to your own business. Now you have around 700 plus employees. Can you please help me understand, Mr. Vikram, in terms of uh, the reason I'm asking this question is because many leaders that I often talk to, right, are struggling when it comes to managing Gen Zs. Uh, they're- I personally believe they're making it, many leaders or are talking to, or even HRFs, they're making it far more complicated than it is. But I really wanted to understand, is it really that challenging when it comes to managing Gen Zs? And how are you, and especially you as a business here into Web3 and blockchain, whereby you have to attract a lot of young talent. How you go about building and managing and putting that theory into practice that you talked about, being that trust and inspire, right? How do you put that?
First of all, it's not easy, number one, because managing, it's not about managing, I would rather say. It's more about, creating a career path, or maybe, the progress path, what they are looking for, right? Or how they want to execute, how you, man, like I have started making my own quotes as well. Like today in the morning, I was coming to office and I made one quote as well. I started writing down as well. So so one quote I made today was like, real success comes when we change ourselves to counter the terrains we are passing through, not when we wait for the terrains to smoothen out.
Mm.
So if you just look deeply into it, right? So I would keep complaining, okay, if I would have like people who are of my maybe contemporary, time, so they will be able to understand me, but I want to execute rather than these Gen Z people, who are very much ambitious, who just keep working on every 6 months. I have a resignation, or maybe 1 year I have a resignation. So what I'm trying to do over here, I'm sticking to my own belief systems. I'm not trying to understand the terrains.
Mm.
Whether if you remember, there is a quote from Sinzu, right? I may not recall it very correctly, but the gist will be correct. I can assure you that if you go into a war without knowing yourself and without knowing the enemy, you will not be able to win any war. If you go into a war knowing yourself but not the enemy, that every victory won, you will also come to a defeat as well. But if you go into a war knowing yourself and knowing the enemy, you will not fear of fighting even 100 battles and without losing a one. तो मतलब क्या हुआ, like it's not a war over here, but it's a my terrains, like the challenges I have to negotiate. If I keep complaining about my challenges, that's also one of the sign of like where at what hierarchy you are in your journey of leadership. The more complaints you have from others, the lower the level you are, still in that level, the lower bracket. But you wanted to ask something. I think you wanted to
I
check with.
wanted to ask about because you mentioned a very good point about beliefs. Can beliefs be changed?
Yes, yes, definitely they can be changed.
It can be changed.
Yeah, so but there is a process actually.
Could you please elaborate on that? How can we?
We will not be able to respect your time, but I can very fast, Amlika, quickly give you an analogy. Like it says like there are 5 factors which are responsible for my success in life. On the top, on the top, there is behavior.
Okay.
Like how we behave with each other is one of the factor which control our success, right? But there is a question like why do people behave differently in same situation? What is the reason? Where does behavior come from?
Mm.
Why people behave differently in same situation? At the same time, then the answer is like behavior is nothing but the actions we take in a particular situation. Our action forms our behavior.
Mm.
But why do people take different action in the same situation? Where these actions come from?
Mm.
Again, the answer comes from the feelings. The feelings are the answer to the action. Like the way we feel in a particular situation is the action we produce in that particular situation, right? For example, if there are two kids, like one coming from a very maybe uh, uh, poor background, like they don't get like 3 time meals in a day, and one from our homes, like where kids are very much self sufficient. So, अगर आप उस पे if you put like a pizza and dal in front of them, the the modern kid will be kind of like dying for pizza, like going to the pizza just like he the way he loves it. But for dal, he would never, like kind of like he's going to die now looking at the dal. But the person who is coming from a poor background, he will like both the stuff, right? So it's the feelings which are the result of the action. But why do people feel different in the same situation? The answer is the attitude, the kind of attitude we bring in a situation. And but how do we define attitude? Is the perspective through which we look at the world, right? But again, why do people have different attitude in same situation? Situation same, but people have different attitude. So the answer is like it is our belief system. If my beliefs are positive, my attitude will be positive. If my beliefs my leading me to the negative things, my attitude will be negative. But where does these beliefs come from? They are the result of only 1 day or maybe 1 month of working, or maybe 1 year of like association or conditioning. No, the beliefs are coming from our programming, the kind of environment we have been raised into. This is where I started the entire this podcast. That and how do we change our programming then?
Mm.
And this is where I mention my purpose, like by bringing the clarity, because belief jo hote hain na, they are the physical structures within our mind, mental models, right? And it is like framed into like physical structures, like neural pathways. Until unless your maybe counter argument to change a belief does not fit into that physical structure, people will not believe it. But if your counter argument is so strong that it force people to question their own thinking, then you change the beliefs.
This is a great thing that you mentioned, and I think you made it very simple as well. Because if you reflect back, beliefs comes through, as you rightly pointed, is a programming is through experiences that we often get right, and 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 they really love the connection of behaviors, actions, beliefs, and attitude, and programming. And this is the never put that into an in a format, but if you reflect back, that is what we behave, because behaviors is what we see is the top of the ocean bird, right? It's based on the actions and decisions we take, and underneath is all about our beliefs and experiences. It that forms our identity. This really gold mine here, Vikramji. So I want to touch base on around now about your business around, because you're in the business of Web3, right? Uh, to begin with, what exactly is this Web3 is, and why is it so relevant in the current? Why is it so relevant even for business leaders? Um, could you please enlighten and show us what exactly is the Web3 is all about?
Right. So let me give it a very again, simple narrative, around it. Uh, in order to understand Web3 properly, I would say we need to understand why it was required. What was missing in Web 2.1, 2.0? Because everyone we look at it, read, write, on, right?
Mm.
So the first when a website started coming, that it was a Web 1.0 era. Web 2.0 era was the Amazon, Uber, all this kind of stuff. But when we started, developing some, I would say वो weeds होते हैं ना, like जो by product of some good things आते हैं, good crops के भी weeds होते हैं. So now when they grow bigger than the right crop, that is where we need So why we need Web3? Because of the privacy issues. How many times you must have heard the credit card theft हुआ या personal information का theft हुआ, right? So company in India or maybe anywhere, they stole away all the credit card information, right? Second, you like the uh, the ownership part, right? So data is mine, but being controlled by somebody else, being commercialized by somebody else, being monetized by somebody else. I don't have any say like into that, especially platform like Meta, Instagram, YouTube. Like you can stop that anytime, like whenever you violate their terms made by them, not a democratic terms.
Mm.
Even like you look at the Twitter or X. So and a good this was missing in this is still missing in Web 2.0, right? And a better way to handle digital money, right? This is still missing in Web 2.0. And then the experience part, like the to 3D experience, 3D like a metaverse kind of experience that's missing in Web 2.0. So that's why we needed Web 3.0. And I look at it in a very plain way. Uh, you have a simple software in your office where it has certain data which is very crucial, but it is being managed by a data DBA, database administrator, or maybe somebody. But if somebody is like smart enough, technically as well, they can always steal that data,
Mm.
right? But when you put the data into the blockchain, I'm like, you are the complete owner of that data, right? So imagine like you have a digital money in your pocket, just like Bitcoin, and it can never be copy pasted until unless there is a process which you adopt and take the process of like mining where their transactions are recorded and it can never be reversed. So the four promises which a blockchain comes on the table, like immutability, provenance, decentralization, right, and security part. So that is where the the real promise of Web 3.0 counts, like where it is bringing the freedom back to the ownership back to the people, right? It's a democratizing the access or maybe the way the information is handled, transferred. And as the if you and it very well resonate with the future consumers, the Gen Z which is growing up or maybe already in a uh, kind of like professional environments. If you look at their buying behavior, nobody would like to visit a store or a bank or maybe they want everything instantly. They want to own everything, whatever belongs to them as well. And it very well. So I would say like both the things are going hand in hand. And the adoption of Web3 is now picking pace, as you would have seen, like how the attitude or the stand of US now on the digital currencies, cryptocurrencies. And even Elon Musk is saying like, why should not we bring entire US government budget on the blockchain? Bringing the transparency is one of the promise of the blockchain, right? But I would say like 100% transparency is may not be achievable in Web 3.0, maybe but 2.5%. So because you can never, bring complete honesty, command honesty, or maybe some elements will always be there who can have that end of like mindset to, tamper with the things. So we need a certain degree of like security as well. So, but this is the promise of Web3, which I would say like most of the platform will go towards, move towards, so that the people who are the owner of their own data, they should have the control on their data, or maybe some right to monetization as well.
Um, I mean, this very well, you explained it, Vikramji, in a very simplistic way. So it's more all about democratizing the data and taking that ownership of the data, which Web2 fails to provide that, because now the companies such as Facebook or Amazon, they own all the data. So, so when it comes to uh, India, right, where are we when it comes to implementation of Web3 in the
So,
practical?
very nice question. I would say, in knowledge concern, there's a lot of work being going on in the government level. Even India is ahead of many other countries in terms of their implementation of CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, and this is a removing the banks. Like it's peer to peer. Like you can simply keep the CBDCs and like transfer directly to somebody else without the bank within. If I'm not wrong, that's what I heard. And but I have never looked at the architecture. But yeah, so if you look at there are a lot of work being done in on the government level. At the same time, the public uh, blockchain infrastructures like blockchains, uh, there have been also we are taking too much time, which I believe might be okay with the way the government looks at these things, to bring more like uh, constructive regulations which they are having in maybe gift city, right? How fast we can bring them onto the mainstream, so that Web3 companies can also thrive from here, right? Have the government support and uh, uh, right environment, I would say conducive environment, regulatory standpoints as well. So however, the government is able to extract good use cases out of it. Digi on blockchain, uh, like that.
Decentralized on blockchain, is
Yeah.
it?
So
Okay.
there are other initiative like health records which are also going to be put on blockchain. Even we are also doing something which nobody has done in India. Like we are trying to solve the largest problem in blockchain in our e-governance, which is called question paper leak. So we already built a solution product which aims to like solve this problem from the root, because we have eliminated all the human interference within this entire process, and founding on the real, and made the end customer, the candidate, the student, as the stakeholder within the entire process, the way the question paper will be opened, right?
Yeah.
And all the printing has been shifted to real-time environment. So we can talk about that later. But yeah, so on government level, I think a lot of stuff being done and even achieved as well. At the same time, on the public sector, we need some more pace. The way to support Web3 startups, within the startup ecosystem.
Okay. And this is interesting, Vikramji. And thanks for letting know Digiyatra. I'm a big fan of Digiyatra myself. I use that. It does save a lot of time.
Yeah.
But it's also interesting to know, whilst at the consumer level, I like to have I like to own my data, right? But always, from a business perspective, of course, there is much more deeper understanding for the business outcomes, right? what kind of cost savings it is. And of course, as you rightly pointed, what happens to this middle path, the banks and everything. You could see a lot of resistance coming in here, but that's a different topic. But what grabbed my attention, Vikramji, I was reading one of the article, and the data point says that by 2034, Web3 is expected to cross $99 billion. Um, I mean, the trajectory and the growth rate is going, and that shows that many countries, and in fact, many private companies will be adopting the Web3. Um, just wanted to understand from your perspective, because you are the pioneer and you've spent a lot of time and got huge manpower and resources around Web3 and blockchain. So, what key trends do you think leaders should track now to stay relevant and be prepared?
So, again, non-technical point of view, that it must resonate with how the things are changing. The because nowadays technology uh, is changing very fast. The adoption of change technology, the innovation, the speed at which the innovation is happening has gone crazy, right? And even sometimes I feel like even the people are not ready to accept that. Like they need to be. So I would say the uh, in order for to get up to that level where we are able to identify those trends and those uh, changes which are happening around you, you have to be a very well I would say like stay aware about what is happening in your own industry, how the consumer behaviors are changing, right? And what one innovation may lead to maybe disrupting 10 other things, right? Or five other things. So that is very important. So I believe it's a natural progression, right? So one thing leads to the other thing. For example, when we face Web 2.0 challenges, maybe economic recession, led to the innovation happening at the digital currency side, right? When the regulatory things started happening, innovation has started happening on the DeFi side.
Mm.
When kind of like a regulatory side started adopting it, then further innovation, or maybe the innovation which has had happened in the Web3 space, they started getting into the conventional sides like ETF, or like electronic trading product ETPs, like being launched now. Real estate use cases now coming on the algorithm where real world asset operations started coming in. So in my opinion, like it's all about like keeping a very close eye what is happening, and that entails like if you are listening to the right podcast, the consuming the right content, only then you can stay abreast. And those content needs to come from the verified channels as well.
Mm.
I'm not talking about like just taking looking at Instagram reels,
Right.
right? So it has to be, like credible agencies and resources, and you need to have that kind of a discipline in your day-to-day routine to spend time and keeping an eye on them, those things.
Okay. That's interesting. So it's clearly, um, needless to say, every leader has to keep an abreast on the technologies, right? But Web3, it's a market. It's an opportunity for, how do you change the mindset of legacy industries, Vikramji? Especially, there's so many legacy industries where they feel that they don't want to be challenged on the status quo. But what are the consequences for these legacy industries who do not want to adapt to the new technology trends that is coming out of this Web3 and blockchain, right? What are the consequences from a business standpoint?
So in my opinion, again, like in order to change their mindset, it's a very hard thing. Until people don't want to change, they will not change, right?
Yeah.
So if you look at the demonetization example, if it would not have happened, nobody would have adopted the Paytm,
Mm.
right? So when you force people block all the ways to maybe like then they will change themselves, right? So either so for example, why does the new innovative products gets adopted or start getting traction? Either you help them save money, make money, save time, right? These are the few things which uh, give the answer that there is something in it for them, right? So, in my opinion, like when your product or your service is answering that what is in it for them rightly, and if that is valuable enough for them to give it a thought or time,
Mm,
and has the right user experience, no barrier to entry as well, low barrier to entry, I would say,
mm,
only then they will change, right?
mm.
So that's the only way I believe, like the mindset can be influenced.
Mindset could be influenced. I mean, this is great, interesting, and especially coming from you, where you have, as a business, right, you have done 1,000+ implementations. It's clearly evident that Web3 is a growing market, and it's an opportunity for leaders to embrace this technology as a business enabler to drive certain business outcomes. So, for the interest of the viewers, I want to understand what skill sets, because there are a lot of aspiring youngsters, they do reach out to me in terms of what skill sets. So, what do you think are the skill sets are very relevant when it comes to um, Web3 and blockchain, and what is that they need to learn so they could see themselves joining this industry?
So I would say there is no one liner answer, maybe one specific answer to this, because it everything boils down to like where are you coming from? Like if you are coming from a technical background, then definitely technology has now been reduced as a just a mindset. I would say now the Copilot program, the Chat GPT, the other AI tools which are available, which can write for you,
Mm,
right? So if you have the technical mindset, you can get the things done. Even like have a good B Tech degree, and you can get the things done. But if you have a kind of like a analysis mindset, like like business analyst mindset or business functional mindset, then you can learn the art of like and for how to uh, create value propositions, how to kind of like create business centric solutions, right? How to monetize the applications. So that's the another area. So we always call it it's again a process, right? So we call it like three, two P and one E.
mm,
So first P stand for the the professional excellence, right? Whatever your profession you are in, you have to first try to get to the peak of that profession, right?
yeah.
So I call it like, for example, either whatever like industry. If you just again example from my own industry, like if you have done B Tech, but can you write code up to the highest level, right? Right, or can you also design or maybe act as a solution architect, right? So I'm like, that is first is the knowledge part, that is professional excellence. Second is the performance part. Can you apply that knowledge to achieve the required or desired result? That is the performance part, right? So you need to take that also to the peak level. And then is the expression part, profession, performance, and expression. Expression, again, all these things are very deep because when you talk about
Expression, Vikramji, what is expression?
expression, like the way you present the things, right? The way you sell the things, right? So that's the expression part, right? Not only how you present yourself, but how your solution is being presented, right? So कहते हैं ना, like when you look at the business from a standpoint, like value, a business is creating a value. How the value is created, how the value is captured. Captured means sales and marketing.
Mm,
Created mean your kind of uh, like whatever your product or service is,
mm,
and how the value is delivered. That's the operational efficiency part,
mm.
right? Delivered. तो तीन ही एलिमेंट होते हैं, like how the value is created, how the value is captured, and how the value is delivered,
Delivered, yes.
right? So, and I believe like all these things also can be summed up in three for the professional entry level professional. कि आपने you have to वो कहते हैं there you need 10,000 hours to be an expert in one field, and if you boil it down 8 hours a day, it takes you 5 years,
Mm,
right? After 5 years, you start getting to the things, okay, this is how it works. It's again natural progression. Like the more and more hard work you would put in, you can reduce that 5 years to 2.5 years as well. If you start spending 16 hours a day, right? Which is not practical, but that is there's a lot of dialogue or maybe discussion or maybe keep going on like 7 hours, 7 days a week or 6 days a week or five. I would say that's directly proportionate to at what speed you want to follow your career pathways. If I want to run or maybe on drive at 120 speed or 140 speed, obviously I have to work hard on them. But if I have to, drive only on the 60 or maybe six, maybe 50, then I can stay in the left lane and, just keep driving the way, maybe 4 days a week or 3 days a week or 5 days a week.
What I like about Vikramji is the opposite side of complexity lies in its simplicity, and you like to keep things simple. And the way you beautifully explained it, that two P's and one A, having that professional excellence and being mastery of your own professional excellence, that is translated into performance, and the way you express it dictates the kind of results that you wanted to have. And the the clarity that you have and the clarity you express and the clarity you making it simpler for us is remarkable here. That's brilliant. Uh, Vikanji, and I think, look, you've given us a lot of depth, candor, and strategic insights on many aspects of the business, right from your humble beginnings to set up an uh, business employing more than 700 plus employees operating across 5 continents, 1,000 plus blockchain implementations, and on what drives you as a person, your purpose, and how do you translate that purpose in your decision making, and how your organization purpose translates to your at every level in the organization. They're linked to each other. And I liked about your leadership in terms of trust and inspire, and your 4 R's: respect, responsibility, right, and rational. And I love the way you beautifully expressed the behaviors uh, is what we see at the upper layer, but behaviors are dictated to the actions we take, and the actions comes from the beliefs, and beliefs comes through experiences that we experience, right? And thank you for sharing your insights around Web3 and blockchain. And no wonder why you wanted to be a market leader in Web3 in terms of providing providing your professional expertise here, because you've done 1,000 plus implementations, but also giving us a bit of insights what exactly Web3 is. While many people understand what's crypto chain, but not many people understand Web3. So thanks for clarifying that. But before I leave, I would love to ask one final question. What advice you would give to younger version of yourself if you had to give an advice?
I would say, uh, again, one should feel fortunate if they have the right people around them, right? And if not the right people, then, you know, maybe you should follow the path of learning, because nobody, we come as a clean slate in this world, right?
Oh,
मैं बार बार कहता हूँ like any parent, कोई भी parent, how successful he or she might be,
mm,
millionaire billionaire भी हो, even if like मैं चाह के भी like I can't inject my wisdom into my kids,
yes.
or maybe genetically transfer my wisdom, even 1% of my wisdom which I have acquired in my kids, genetically and physically. So you have to acquire all these skills, experiences when you come in this world. And it's a journey, right? Everything is a journey.
Yeah.
So, and everything start with the what you started with, like the purpose. You asked me the purpose, right? And purpose are also inspired from I would say the struggles you might have kind of gone through, the grinding you might have gone through. And if we haven't have had any struggle, then do we have the maybe the empathy or maybe the humility, which doesn't come inbuilt, right? Or maybe again product of circumstances, or maybe you have people around you who can understand, make you understand. Sympathy is like when I feel, I can say, okay, you are in pain. But empathy is when I can feel your pain, right? So there's a difference. Like, but either I can drive my purpose from my own struggle, or either I can drive my purpose from the struggles of the others by looking at the challenges of the others, right? But in order to do that, I have to have that empathy and humility in me, which again can be put if you are fortunate enough that you have those right parents, or maybe the surroundings and the people around him can make you understand. Because I always say, like, not me, but it has been said earlier as well, that give me a child for first 7 years and I will tell you what he will become,
Oh,
right? जो initial आपके जो passions, like which gets developed as a passion,
oh,
whatever you try teaching your kids in the first 7 years, when they would never question, whatever you want them to do, they will do, and that eventually becomes your passion. वो कहते हैं ना कि why I'm good in math, or why I'm good in cricket, or why I'm good in games, because they were like unconsciously, like when you were like always looking at your parents with the belief that whatever is going to come from him, I'm going to do that. So that gets converting to your the passion in the long run. And when your passion kind of like when you start distributing or maybe teaching others whatever you're passionate about, that becomes your purpose.
mm. Right. You hit the nail there, Vikramji. Thank you for sharing your insight as well. Be surround
मैं
the right people.
फाइनल वो सम अप करना भूल गया कि ऑलवेज बी रेडी टू लाइक put in the required hard work, right? A silent sea cannot produce a good sailor. So that I would rather say that you must welcome challenges. You must look at the challenges in a way that they are there to take you to the next level. Sometimes storms come into your life to make the way to come to bring the new things into your life.
Yeah. Yeah. What a great piece of wisdom and insight. I really, really love that quotation as well. Vikramji, this is great. And I think it's all about surrounded on the right people, because you, your identity is shaped by the environment that you are lived in, right? And if you're surrounded around the right people, if you keep doing the right things, and great results keeps following. And thank you for sharing your insights, tips. Please.
One last thing, हम कहते हैं ना कि you are the average of those 5 people you
Mm.
spend most time with, है ना?
Yeah.
But ये भी true है कि you will be the type of person next 5 years, the kind of books you read. So if you're not fortunate enough to have those right people, then try to surround yourself with the right books.
Right.
That's my last piece of advice. Thank you.
Oh, this was brilliant. And I think that's reading books. As somewhere I read, and I try my best, try to read at least 2 books a month. But they say that if you read one book a week, and you're bound to get results that you wanted to get, right? So thank you for that. And again, to our listeners, if this sparked clarity, challenge, or curiosity, do please share it. And I really thank Mr. Vikram for sharing your insights, your wisdom, and most importantly, that your passion, your curiosity, your learning, whatever you're suggesting, right? You embraced everything, and that is one of the reasons, despite challenges, you you kind of established a company, global company, not only global company, but also a market leader in what you do. So thank you, Vikramji, and I really wish you all the best. And I really appreciate for taking your time to talk to us.
Thank you. Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Thank you.